It was a draft with 2 MVPs, 6 All-Stars, and one of the biggest busts in NBA history. In this video, it's the first ever half-court report redraft, and the year is 2009. What's up, guys? This is Troy, host of the Half Court Report YouTube channel. First off, thank you so much for all the new likes and subscribers from our last video. If you haven't checked that out, make sure you do. In today's video, I'm going to talk all about a redraft, and I've been wanting to do one of these videos for a long time. I see lots of comments on other YouTube channels saying, do a redraft, and I love the redraft. It's one of my favorite things, so I thought it would be a perfect time to do this, and 2009 is a very interesting draft. First though, if it's your first time here, do be sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at Half Court Report. Okay, so without further ado, let's jump right into it. I have taken into account team needs in this draft, so keep that in mind. So the Clippers had the #1 pick in the 2009 draft. They picked Blake Griffin, which was a good pick at the time. But in this redraft, they're going to go with 2-time MVP Steph Curry. So we all remember Blake Griffin had just had that stellar career at the University of Oklahoma. It really wasn't much of a debate. There really wasn't a lot of controversy with him being the #1 pick. But now with this Steph Curry pick, they get their franchise player of the future. Taking a look back at the Clippers right around then, they really didn't have a whole lot. They had an aging Baron Davis. They had Marcus Camby, who was also getting on up there. They had Chris Kaman, and they had a rookie, DeAndre Jordan. But can you imagine Steph Curry and DeAndre Jordan growing up together? It would almost be kind of a new type of Lob City, or maybe with Steph Curry, it would just be 3-point city. For the #2 pick that year, the Grizzlies had that selection, and oh boy, they picked HASHEEM THABEET, which still lives on in infamy as one of the worst draft picks of all time. This time around, they picked James Harden, who would have been a much better pick in retrospect. At the time, Memphis had a young Conley, they had a young Marc Gasol. Assuming the Zebo trade goes through with the Clippers, they would have had the Clippers as well, and also Rudy Gay. For the #3 pick, the Oklahoma City Thunder selected James Harden, but he just got picked by Memphis in this redraft, so they're going to go with Blake Griffin, who was from Oklahoma, who would have been great to add to the young core of Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. I think that would have been a really scary team, especially when you think of the athleticism of a young Blake and the athleticism of a young Westbrook. Combine that with Durant shooting. I don't think a championship would have been out of the question with that team. For the 4th pick, the Sacramento Kings selected Tyreke Evans. In this redraft, they are going to pick Jrue Holiday. The Sacramento Kings did not have a lot on their roster during this time. They had Kevin Martin, they had Jason Thompson, they had Spencer Hawes. They didn't have a competent point guard, which why I think Jrue Holiday would be a great pick. So they take Jrue Holiday, who was a freshman at UCLA, maybe keep him on the West Coast. You know, what could have been? Maybe they would have made the playoffs at some point. I don't know, it being the Kings, I'm dubious of that. For picks 5 and 6, I'm going to tackle these together because they are both from the Timberwolves. So pick 5 was from Washington, but they traded to get that pick. And at 5, they picked Rubio, and at 6, they picked Johnny Flynn. In this redraft, they're still going to pick Rubio at 5, but they're going to pick DeMar DeRozan at #6. So if we'll remember about Rubio and Johnny Flynn, Rubio didn't even come over for a couple of years. Johnny Flynn, who was another point guard, people still wonder why they did the 2-point guard thing. David Kahn, their GM at the time, was just raked over the coals for that. So in this redraft, Rubio still waits a couple years to come over, but during that time they have DeMar DeRozan, who they can put with Kevin Love and Al Jefferson. DeMar starts with them from day one. He was a fairly productive rookie. That makes the years of waiting for Rubio a little bit easier. Pick #7 was made by the Golden State Warriors. They picked Steph Curry, which was an awesome pick, but Steph Curry went #1 in this redraft, so they get quite the downgrade by picking another point guard, Jeff Teague. So Golden State had Monte Ellis at this point and really not much else. Would he and Monte Ellis have worked? Probably not, but if you'll recall, they ended up shipping Monte Ellis to Milwaukee for Andrew Bogut. So maybe you can think of this as a Jeff Teague, Andrew Bogut type of 1-2 combo, which to me is still not a very good team in the West if those are some of your best players. Pick number 8 was made by the New York Knicks, and they picked Jordan Hill. In this redraft, they're going to pick Tyreke Evans. You would put Tyreke with Danilo Gallinari, David Lee. This was all before the Carmelo trade. Maybe Tyreke gets involved in that Carmelo trade, so maybe he ends up playing in Denver. A lot of what-ifs here, but I do like that trio of David Lee, Gallinari, and Tyreke, especially if he's living up to his potential. The Toronto Raptors made the number 9 pick, and they picked DeMar DeRozan. He's already off the board, so they're going to go with Danny Green, who is moving up a ton of spots. He was a second-round pick. I see Danny Green as an extra shooter who they could have put with Chris Bosh, Andre Bargnani. Really doesn't move the needle a whole lot, and if you'll recall Danny Green, his first couple years in the league, he really did not do much at all, so it may have been the same case with Toronto too. Pick number 10 was made by Milwaukee, and they picked high school phenom Brandon Jennings. In this redraft, they are going to pick Wes Matthews, who wasn't even drafted at all. Wes Matthews has been in the league for a long time. He's actually playing with Milwaukee this season. Milwaukee at the time also had a young Andrew Bogut, not much else. Joe Alexander, like I said, not much else. Maybe the Monte Ellis trade still happens. You pair Monte Ellis with Wes Matthews. I kind of like this pick. The New Jersey Nets, because they weren't Brooklyn at the time, they picked Terrence Williams with the number 11 pick. In this redraft, they're going to go with Pat Beverly, and I kind of like this pick. They were building around their big men of Brook Lopez, John Leon. Maybe add Pat Bev to the mix, give them some extra fire to the team, nice defensive stopper. Really aren't too many more options. The number 12 pick was made by the Charlotte Bobcats. They were not the Hornets quite yet. They picked GERALD Henderson. This was back when Michael Jordan loved picking players from North Carolina. This time around, they're going to pick Taj Gibson, who was a late first-round pick this year. Gibson, though, has made a name for himself as just an enforcer inside, a good team player, just a guy who's going to play hard, set good screens, get some points close to the basket. They didn't have Kemba yet, so you're building around Ray Felton, Gerald Wallace. They would soon trade for Tyson Chandler. So I like the idea of a Taj Gibson, Tyson Chandler front line. I think that would give them some sort of identity, and Charlotte is a team that even today really does not seem like they have much of an identity. We're getting down to pick number 13 from the Indiana Pacers. They chose Tyler Hansbrough, Psycho T. In this redraft, they're going to go with Joe Ingles, who was undrafted. He didn't come over into the NBA for a few years. Pacers at this time were also in the same boat as Charlotte. They didn't really have any players who you would consider first options. They had Danny Granger, who had just won Most Improved Player, but he was still up and coming. We didn't know what he was going to be quite yet. So I think Joe Ingles would have been a nice energy guy off the bench. For the last pick of the lottery, Phoenix selected Earl Clark. In this redraft, they're going to go with another Australian, Patty Mills. I think this would really fit the Phoenix offense at the time. They were done with the whole 7 seconds or less offense, but they still had Steve Nash, they still had Amari Stoudemire, and they also had Goran Dragic, who was a rookie, who has talked about learning from Nash and how helpful that was to him. So maybe the same could have been said for Patty Mills as well. So as we wrap it all up, we picked Steph Curry, number 1, who was up 6 spots from his original pick. James Harden went to the Grizzlies at number 2. Blake Griffin fell 2 spots to be picked by the Oklahoma City Thunder at number 3. The Sacramento Kings picked Jrue Holiday at number 4. At 5 and 6, the Timberwolves selected Ricky Rubio and DeMar DeRozan. The Golden State Warriors selected Jeff Teague. The Knicks selected Tyreke Evans. The Raptors selected Danny Green, who moved up 37 spots in this redraft. The Milwaukee Bucks selected Wes Matthews, who moved up a whopping 51 spots. The New Jersey Nets at the time selected Pat Beverly. The Charlotte Bobcats at the time selected Taj Gibson. The Indiana Pacers selected Joe Ingles, who went from undrafted to the 13th pick. And the Phoenix Suns selected Patty Mills. And there you have it, the first ever Half Court Report Redraft 2009 edition. If you have thoughts on who you think should have been drafted, do let me know in the comments. Love hearing what other people think about the draft, and I just love talking shop about the NBA draft. So one more time, if you like videos like this, do consider subscribing to this channel. I put out new content all the time. Once again, my name is Troy. This is the Half Court Report, and I'll see you next time. Hey guys, one more thing. Here's some more videos to check out on the Half Court Report channel. I hope you like them, and thanks for watching.